Monday.
Good evening.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. We're going to get started. Welcome, all of you, to the regular Planning Commission meeting, Grand Blanc Township. It is August 4th, 2022. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Planning Commission members present this evening. We have Ms. Hugo, Mr. Yacho, Ms. Coulter, Mr. Anderson, Mr. Gellings, Mr. Bandersky, and Mr. Hoffman. We have 7 Planning Commission members present. From Giffords Webster, we have Ms. Jill Boehm and our Planning and Zoning Administrator, Mr. Jeremy Smith. Next item would be approval of this evening's agenda. Any changes?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the agenda as stated.
All right, motion by Mr. Bandersky to approve the agenda as presented. Support by Ms. Hugo. All those in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. We have approval of the minutes from July 14th, 2022.
Mr. Chairman, I have reviewed the draft of the meeting minutes and found everything to be in order. Therefore, unless a commissioner has a comment, I make a motion that we approve the minutes as listed.
Motion
I'll
by-
support.
Motion by Mr. Bandersky to approve the minutes of July 14th, support by Mr. Anderson. All those in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes 7-0. Opportunity for public comments. We don't see anyone from the public here this evening. So we will get that step. Next item is correspondence. I didn't see any correspondence this evening. Was there? No correspondence. Next item is, are we ready for old business or?
No, we need to do election of officers.
Okay. So we'll jump to item 7B, election of officers. So do we do this annually? Is that what it is?
Yes.
So we need
Well, excuse me a second. We don't do it annually, do we, Jeremy? Because
Yeah, we do.
of the officers can change annually. Your term is longer than that typically.
Correct. Your term is usually 2 to 4 years determined by the township board, and it varies, so we don't, so everybody doesn't leave at the same time. But the officers should be done.
Yeah, it does seem like we do it every year. Yeah. Time flies. So where do we start? Let's start with our secretary. Is Mr. Bandersky willing to continue in that role?
yeah, I'm willing to continue, but I also
Second.
told Jeremy, I'm 81. And I said, I think the board needs to have some younger blood. So I said, as soon as you or Scott identify somebody that you think would be appropriate, I'll resign. It's nothing I have against the board, but,
Right.
you know.
And I've mentioned that to Mr. Bennett, and he's working on it, but I don't think that's a top priority. They're doing budget stuff right now. But he's actively searching for somebody.
Yeah, okay, good. Well, I'm glad to hear that. So, well, that respect, yes, I will.
If you'd rather not, I feel I could probably take on that job if the board wanted.
That would give Mr. Bandersky a little time to catch you up on
Yeah,
the past few months.
because I'm 10 years younger than he is.
Okay,
You're comfortable with
That's-
that?
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
You've done a great job, Vince.
Yeah, I'd just soon stay, but
Ridiculous.
it sounds like he's not enthusiastic about it.
Oh, I would do it as long as I'm a commissioner. But my vote is to get somebody younger, as soon as possible, so that the board has some fresh blood.
We appreciate your experience, though, that's for sure.
I'll vote for Mr. Bandersky.
I do think it would be nice if you're here for even 2 more months or 6 more months, and you can transition him in, as opposed to if you were the secretary, somebody else came on, and then you would leave, and then you would kind of be stuck there wondering, he might have questions of you. It might be a nice transition since you're doing that at that time. So
I agree, 4 to 6 months, which is 4 to 6 meetings.
right,
So
yeah. It
that's
sounds like a long time, but it's
Right,
No, it's
right.
not. Be the end of the year, basically.
If that's okay then, and again, you've been meticulous, I totally
Yep.
appreciate
Yeah.
everything you've done in the past few years. We'll nominate Mr. Yancho to be secretary for this coming year.
Okay.
Is there support for that?
Support.
All right. We need a vote, or?
yes.
Sure. So the motion was to nominate Mr. Yancho to be secretary and get some excellent training from Mr. Bandersky, support by Ms. Coulter. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Was that a 6-0 vote? Well, did you vote?
I voted yes.
All right. So, congratulations. Thanks for volunteering. Appreciate that. Then, what do we call it? Vice chair?
Vice chair, chairman.
You willing to stay on?
Yeah, I've kind of got brought into this midterms appointed, so I've been here 4 years, so if somebody else wants to do that job, I am open to it as well, but not going to be unwilling to do, so.
All right.
Everybody's
Got a
jumping right
nomination
on.
for Mr. Anderson?
Mr.
I'll
Bush
nominate-
mentioned to me if you wanted to step down, he would take co-chair, if you wanted to step
Okay.
down. If nobody wanted to do it, he said he would do it, but if you want to, he said you're more than
Okay,
capable of.
and I'm comfortable doing it, so.
Okay.
I'll nominate Larry Anderson to be our vice president and vice chairman.
Got a nomination, motion by Mr. Yancho for Mr. Anderson to be vice chair, support by Ms. Hugo. All right, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. All right, did you vote for yourself?
I did.
Okay, 7-0.
Wouldn't it be odd if I voted no?
Make sure.
All opposed?
All right, and for chairman, I'm willing to do it for another year.
All right.
Everybody's,
I'll make that motion.
okay.
Or
Motion by Mr. Hopkins, support by Mr. Bandersky, that Mr. Gellings remain as chairman for the next year at least. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? I guess it's 7-0. So we've got our officers elected
All
for
right.
the next year. We need to go on to committee reports, or?
It describes you, what it looks like.
Do we have any committee reports? We can go on a committee report.
do.
Yeah, okay, great.
Do I need this closer? So last week, the board did a special meeting, a board workshop. We did a tour, and we started out by traveling down roads that had less than 2 Pacer rating. We went to Wishing Well subdivision and Hillcrest subdivision. They're terrible, because we're talking about redoing the special assessment district language. We also went to Bicentennial Park, and we checked out the barn and the upgrades that they made. They had an addition put on to the barn. These things were funded by ARPA and county funds. And they now have insulation, and they have air, and they have heat, and things like that. We traveled the Dort Highway extension. Jude had his wife's Porsche, and I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure if he stopped to get a car wash on the way home, but so he had his wife's Porsche. Well, actually, I should go back. So we did the Dort Highway extension, and then we went to the old Trim Pine Farms, Grand Blank Enterprise Park, and that's where all of the dirt came onto the Porsche. But it is like,
Porsche.
oh, it's Porsche.
If you-
It is? Wow. Okay. Well,
just-
I'm not
All
fancy.
depends
Like,
where you grew up, that's it.
well,
I worked for him for
I grew up in Goodrich, so
Wrong side of the tracks.
right. But it is absolutely amazing to me seeing that piece of property and how it has already transformed so much. It's still a beautiful piece of property, but it's just, I just remember it being all of the trees, and now there are some trees. They did, we were talking before the meeting, they did save some of the trees, so they'll be able to replant those. And then we also went to Fire Station 2, and we went to the senior center.
The first one you mentioned, you went through Wishing Well.
Yep.
Are they changing how roads get repaved, or?
So we have been talking about changing the language right now because of the special assessment district. The process when I went through it with my subdivision, you had to get a certain number of signatures within a certain amount of time. They are working on the language. Nothing has been approved yet, but at some point, we're hoping that people can, I'm trying to think, because it's, the way that I did it was totally different than how they're doing it now. So instead of getting 51% of the residents to do it, if the township thinks that your road needs to be done, it's a possibility that it might go that way instead of having to do the petition. But the individuals will be able to attend a meeting, and when they have the public hearing, and if they can get 20% of the votes to say no, then, so, again, nothing is set in stone or anything, but Director Sears just wanted to kind of give us a little tour of how bad some of the roads are, and having lived on one of those roads in the past and going through the process, my husband and I spent at least 24 hours once, I think it was 2 summers ago, canvassing the neighborhood, begging people to get our roads redone. And we just live in the first house on our street, and the roads were terrible. But thankfully now we have beautiful subdivision roads, and hopefully they can work on doing something for the rest of the residents, because the roads are terrible.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Banders?
Yeah, as an aside, I have a question for Jeremy. The township commission, Genesee County Commission is the road commission has put gravel on McCandless Road, Perry Road, and several others, probably 3-4 weeks ago. Do you know what the plan is to finish that task?
So I believe they call that a chip seal. So I believe they put a product down that holds down the chips, the gravel, and then they come back and then they seal it. So it's a way to, without repaving it, to extend the longevity of the road. So it's not a complete redo, but it's a Band-Aid, if you will, to extend the longevity.
Do you have any idea what the plan is for the finish?
I don't. I know they put some kind of sealant on it. Once it's packed down or worn off, then they come back and put a sealant on it, and then it's basically just like having it repaved again.
It's kind of like they count on the cars driving on there to help
Exactly.
work the stone
Yes.
into the.
But after that's done, there's another top that goes.
There
with
should
that.
be a sealant that goes on it after so much time. I
They
don't know
did
what
one
time is.
probably 2 years ago on Perry Road, and it's held up so far still. So
It's very
It's
common.
better than the standard fill stuff they put in.
See a lot up north too, it seems like, yeah.
I've complained about how they do it, because the definition of the standard process for doing that requires a roller to pack that gravel down.
Using your car tires to do it,
And,
yeah.
and in other counties, they do that, and so it avoids the paint chips and so on that's associated with, and it's always the two-track that gets packed first, and then, the center and the two outsides near the edges. So.
Start
but
weaving it.
That's not any, I don't think I'm gonna ask you to do anything about it, but I
No,
don't
that would
think-
definitely, that's the road commission,
Yeah.
that's not something that.
Yeah, we don't even have-
township handles, but.
we don't even have a voice at the road commission.
We do. I mean, if you talk to Supervisor Bennett, or Dennis, they can, Superintendent Lehman, either one of those can bend the ear of the road commission.
We just we don't have leverage.
We don't. We don't own the roads, and we don't maintain them, so they could listen to us, but that doesn't mean they have to listen to us.
Right.
They'll entertain us in a meeting, but that doesn't mean they're gonna listen to us.
Is there
Thank you.
anything else for Ms. Hugo?
No, thank you.
Zoning Board of Appeals, we don't,
That was Jay Johnson. He's not here today. We had, I'm trying to remember what we had in the last appeal. We had 2 appeals and one got pushed to September. The other one was for, I don't remember off the top of my head, I apologize. But there will not be an August ZBA meeting. There will be September.
site plan review, I don't think we've seen anything in the last month, have we? There was one a while ago, but I don't know if it was,
We did the vehicle wash supply last month.
okay. And then today we saw a preliminary and final for the, I guess I call it the old, that's really the old tank plant, right? Where they're adding on a 24,000 square foot battery storage addition for EV batteries. That they're trying to get constructed by the end of the year. Pretty straightforward. You can't see it from the road, especially, the road is down on a hole compared to the grade. It's on the south end. You never even know it's been added, probably.
I reported the one for the wash, last meeting.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking it probably fell under last week. All right. Anything else? That takes care of committee reports. Next item on our agenda, by the way.
I'm sorry.
Under new business, Mr. Chairman, did you note that the case number, zoning case 675, will be tabled to a future date for the applicant?
Can you remind me what that case is?
That is a rezoning case for the corner of Belsey and Perry Road.
Well,
That'd be there's an L-shaped parcel behind the gas station that fronts Belsey and Perry Road.
is that gonna, are they coming in as a just conventional rezoning or?
We don't know yet, that's why it's been tabled. There was talk of it was gonna go one way, and then the applicant said he needed more time for future meetings and to see what was gonna best fit that site.
Okay. Guess it brings us back to old business.
Well, hello. Isn't quite setting up my discussion the way I had anticipated, so I apologize for that. And what's really ironic is that I had started for last month's meeting preparing posters because we were in the police station. So I had, of the 2, I had one that was pretty much done, and the second one was almost finished. And then Jeremy told me that we were going to be in the new room and we're going to have all the technology, and I was like, let's just make it all PowerPoint then, because everybody will be able to see it better.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Apparently, technology is failing us tonight, so we are going to have to
That's okay.
wing it a little bit.
Yeah, so and actually, I've sent it to Jeremy already, and he can send it out after the meeting, and at least you can see what we would have been talking about.
I mean,
But it's-
we've seen this.
I know,
before,
you've
so
talked
it's-
about this before, and really, it was just to give you a little bit more of a visual reminder of some of the developments that we have in the township, and then show you some examples of other kinds of attached and multifamily buildings that are going up in other places, just so you could get an idea for other alternatives for regulating the appearance of these kinds of structures. So originally, this whole thing started,
I'm sorry, we've got two documents in front of us. Which one do you want to go over first?
which one do we have? We have, let's do the single, I forgot about this one.
A zoning amendment cleanup.
Yeah, let's do the attached single-family stuff, because I kind of forgot that we had this other one
It's hiding it.
this month, but. So originally, the attached single-family, that idea of taking a look at that standard for the 50% offset of the 50% shared wall of those buildings. And I know when we talked about it the first time, we talked about how much, if it's not 50%, because that does seem like when we had one application or two, that the response from the developer was that it was cutting into some of the open space that they were able to provide because they had the jogging of the facade to manage. So we felt it might be worthwhile to explore that standard and see if there were other opportunities to still end up with attractive-looking buildings that didn't look monotonous by thinking about other ways that we could do that. So I know that you've had some conversation about that already. So I think that the text that you have in front of you is a follow-up to your June discussion, I believe. And so I think we could just start there with any comments that you have or questions that you have about that.
So the first part was talking about defining high-quality building materials, right?
Mr. Chairman, I just have a suggestion on the second item there that starts out materials such as brick and stone. I would just suggest, rather than saying material of equal durability, say similar durability and aesthetics. The reasoning is I don't think you can really measure, durability and aesthetics. So rather than equal, I would suggest just similar, more of a wording change than anything else, but.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Bandersky?
to build on what Dolores just said, as determined by the Planning Commission, how can we determine durability? The aesthetics, yes, I mean, it's our opinion, but the durability, and it goes back to what she just said about when changing equal to similar. How will we determine durability?
Well, I think that's up to the applicant to provide you, and maybe it's more about, shall be demonstrated to the satisfaction of the planning commission. And that might be with material specification sheets, it might be for photos of similar product in similar buildings that have been in existence for several years, so that you could see, this product has been on this building for 5 years and it looks like it did the first day it was built, that kind of a thing. And we could put that in as examples, or we could have that as an aside. But I think really the key is that it's on the applicant to demonstrate that, and then it's to your satisfaction that it's demonstrated.
Yeah, I like that wording, if we could include that in. Demonstrated satisfaction of the planning commission. That's a good wording that you threw out there.
So from there, I think this version keeps the 50% standard as is, unless there was some other alternatives.
So what you've highlighted here are changes. This isn't necessarily all.
Since the last one that you saw, yes.
Yeah. Any other comments from planning commission?
So those, yeah, so those 5 possible criteria for allowing a greater share of that common wall to be connected, so it would take it down, it's sort of flipping it and saying that that wall has to be no more than 50%, but it could be up to 80 if the planning commission finds that the applicant has done those 5 things that are underneath that. So, and I had some examples, so.
The wording that you're talking about right now, where's?
Number 2.
That's number 2A on page 2.
Mine goes from 1.
I'd
Yeah,
agree.
whoops.
Mine goes from 1 to,
Gee,
What?
gee, you're right.
Ours goes from 1 to 3.
I didn't notice that.
1G,
There's,
Yeah.
No.
there's probably 2.
Well, you know what? I would recommend that perhaps we consider postponing this until our next meeting. Since we only have partial information and,
Do you want me to go run?
If only,
Copies?
maybe it could be displayed up on a screen or something.
We tried and that didn't.
Sorry.
but
Do you,
let's just, because I think some of what we have in here, like, for example, under the first one, well, that you can't see, attached unit buildings that include both 1 and 2-story units in an alternating pattern, a variety of front entry types. If some of the images that I have make that more clear, what that means, and we can kind of highlight that if that's helpful. I think it's interesting when I went through and pulled some examples, the ones that I could find, I had a hard time finding any buildings that actually met that standard today. And I know there must be some, but I'm not sure where they are, because a lot of the ones that I find are, maybe 2 to 4 buildings together, very much garage forward presentation. I think like 4 of the 5 that I found were that. And I think that's probably more of a design feature that we might want to talk about than that 50% offset. Unless you can think of any that I am not aware of or don't remember. Can you think of any examples of those, like of the attached single family that have that 50% stagger?
staggered off setback. Yeah, there's one off McCanish Road, I think it's called Sawgrass.
Sawgrass, okay, I'll look it up.
Between Holly and Saginaw McCandlish.
Okay.
And
There's Walnut.
what about
Go
Applegate?
across the Street also.
There's Applegate condos, which is right at the corner of Genesee and Perry Road.
Okay.
Those were built back in the 80s.
Yeah,
I notice this stuff when I drive around other neighborhoods because I guess it's just in me being on the planning commission stuff. Hey, check.
yeah,
A lot of the newer buildings and stuff, newer condos and stuff like that they're building, they do have relaxed access a little bit. They're a little close together, a little less staggered. It allows them to fit more units on a single parcel, but they still make it architecturally appealing to look at.
Right.
They're beautiful buildings. So I think that does need to be visited and I think loosened up a little bit.
that I agree with that, and I'm glad to hear you say it. And then I think it's contrast with some of the multifamily product. Well, and I was going to say not to name names, but I'm going to because it's one of the examples that you'll see in the handout is the Grand apartment building.
Okay.
It's a big rectangular box with brick on it. And for a newer product, it's not, I think there are other examples that you have in the township that are much nicer, that are older, that have some interesting gables and projections, and windows are coming out, and building materials changing. Entrances are on the front, they're on the side. That is just all, so the contrast between what our standards are for attached single-family versus not very many standards for the multifamily, I think they could be met somewhere in the middle, perhaps. So that's what I was going to illustrate to you, and what you'll see when I send you the handout.
So, the changes that we're talking about, how much would, percentage-wise, would that add to the cost of a development? Typically.
I don't know the answer to it. I might be able to get an answer for you, though, for our next conversation, or pop that in to the memo.
I just want to make sure that we're not driving business away.
Well, I think that's one of the concerns of the language as it is.
Right.
The construction for one building or a building that has some projections in it versus 50% only of that shared wall, that adds more cost on.
And what I do know from looking at other developments I've done is that 50% offset means you can put 2 units on a certain size or certain square footage of land. Whereas if you reduce that frontage, we're allowed maybe a 20% setback, you can actually build more per square foot of land, so it'd be even more attractive to a developer. And it can still be done very pleasing, very well done. But I think it kind of encourages that a little more.
Right.
I think we're encouraging variety. I don't think it's going to add significant cost in any way.
Well, and the whole aspect of this is so we don't see row housing. So we want to be accommodating, but we don't want to see the row housing. So we don't want to have everything the same facade and be just 6 units all with the same front. So that's,
Right.
we think 50% is egregious, but we're trying to meet the developer somewhere in the middle.
Right.
So Jeremy, are you looking for some action on this?
I think we've decided we're going to hold off on this
I
one a
can
little.
send you, yeah, I'll make it a little bit more clear.
So,
And attach that other information.
so the memo dated July 8th, I think we're going to use that as continued discussion for the next meeting.
Does anybody,
Yes.
any planning commissioners have any additional thoughts now they've kind of seen something in front of them? Or-
Question here, what am I looking at here?
This is the different one.
Yeah, but no, this page was in between those two,
Yes,
it's not stapled
that's the
together.
second page.
Okay. Mine wasn't
Mr.
stapled.
Bender?
I want to go back to my previous discussion and then this business of as determined by the planning commission. And to what you said, could there be something in there to say as presented by the developer?
Yes. It would say
Developer
something,
Provides the information rather than we have to go look at it or
Onus
go look
on
for it.
them versus-
yeah, no, it'll be demonstrated, as demonstrated by the applicant, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Pause for just a second here, and I see Sclivier's the same thing. You got the memorandum for the proposed change in considerations, it's 2 documents stapled together?
You've got 2 separate memos. So that one's dated July 7th. We haven't got to that one yet.
Okay, is this supposed to be 3 pages, is my first question? Or do you guys have it as 2?
That one is only 2 pages.
Okay, because in between mine, and I see Ms. Clothier has hers too, there's this sheet, which
Uh-oh.
goes from 1A to G.
Yeah.
So the page you were,
The one you just have in
You
your
just
left.
hand-
Yeah.
Goes in between it.
Yeah, see, this is supposed to
So
be,
this one, if you take this piece of paper and you slice right down the middle of this,
Yeah.
slide it,
supposed
insert
to be
it.
the
okay, that's
second
what-
page, and this is the 3rd page.
So you go here, there,
So
and then
that's what I
to the
thought, the
back.
section I thought was missing. So-
Yeah, this is what was missing, so you go from here to there,
Gotcha,
to
okay.
the back.
Sorry
Yeah,
for my,
a little confusing.
I'm
no
catching
problem.
up now, I got it.
Problem.
I was thinking it was a continuation of another document.
Sorry for the confusion on this.
that was our mistake when we made copies. That was, somehow got lost in the shuffle. Because my packet, the packet that was given to me has all 3 pages in it, so I apologize.
All right, well, we could move to the next one, which is much easier, actually.
Okay.
So these were, as we continue going through the cleanup items that we talked about, I think starting a couple months ago, just 3 very minor cleanup items, if you will. So the first one was signs for potential rezonings, section 7.3.3.c. And I think one of the things that we talked about with the planning commission were signs that were posted and then never taken down. And so this would require that to be removed, and gives the township the ability to do so if it's just hanging out for too long. Does anyone have any questions on that one?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Bandersky.
No, Mr. Hoffman.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Hoff. So would that be a warning to them? Hey, you need to take that down, kind of like the other situations that we have when we have violations? Or is it just, you know what, it's up 30 days, we're gonna go take it down and charge you? Or just take it down?
We would give them a warning shot. We're not going
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say, though, too, it's going to be on the application for the rezoning. Like, you have to put up this sign. Please note, you've got this much time to have the sign up, and you'll be required to take it down. Otherwise, we will take it down for you and charge you for it. So they will have the warning up front. I mean, I would,
I've made phone calls on a couple of the
Yeah.
rezoning ones that had, especially there's what was one on Saginaw, I won't name names, but there was one on Saginaw that just finally got taken down in the last couple weeks, and I called a couple times, so.
With that being said, is it the sign that needs to come down? Or the sign and posts, or whatever's holding it up?
sign and sign structure.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
make a note of that, because I see the
No, that's fair.
signs come down and the post structure's always
Yeah.
sitting up there.
Yes.
Yes.
Clarification, yes, thank you.
Like it.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I had a suggestion on that section as well, and would be to say if the sign is not removed in the allotted time, then the township would notify the applicant that they have whatever 30 days to, take the sign down, or we will place a lien on the property. I mean, this sounds like, that it would save the township, I think, of, having to pull up these signs and dispose of them and place a lien on the property. Because I suspect if an applicant got a notice that, what was going to happen if they didn't remove the signs, they would immediately remove it.
Well, there's probably some legality in that.
I don't know that you need to have that in as ordinance language. I think that's just policy.
Yeah. I don't know if we could legally enforce that.
Well, actually, I was wondering about that. You mean the lien on the property?
Yeah.
Well, it would be
Yeah, I
kind of like a
kinda
special
think about that, too.
assessment like we do for the lawn mowing. We would send a letter, say, this is what's happening, you're gonna be charged X amount of dollars if you don't mow by X days, and then if not, we will remove it and we will put this on and charge it to
Okay.
your tax bill.
Tax bill.
Yep,
Oh,
that's how it would work.
Yeah, and I think the first time that maybe we talked about this, we talked about having it be the other way where they leave a deposit. You want to pay up front, and then when you take it down, but then that gets,
That gets sticky.
a lot of.
yeah.
Yeah.
I know that people don't like to have to collect money and then give it back.
Right. Or we could just not have the signs altogether.
Well, Jill said if they're told when they come in that they have to take it down, and then if, go back and tell them, that's redundant in my opinion. They have to accept the responsibility. So,
And we could do the form so that they have to sign it. Maybe there's a little initial next to that part, like you understand that you have to take this down. And then a call like, hey, it's been 30 days. Oh, yeah, we totally forgot. We'll go do that.
We could add it to the
I don't think it's
checklist
gonna
that
be a
they're supposed to fill out and provide.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. Add it to the checklist so they know and they've marked it, so they're aware, so then you've marked it, so part of giving you, all the folks on the board here a copy of that application, that page is part of that, so that if we add another line to that, that's not a problem.
well, I'm okay with that, doing it that way.
Okay.
Good. That company is gonna, whoever's requesting the rezoning is gonna pay someone to make and erect the sign, and their contract could just as easily read erect and remove the sign.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
The next one, are you ready? Establishing a loss on return on investment. So this was something I think that came up, wondering what kind of information the planning commission might ask for in a rezoning that would demonstrate a reasonable return. And so this was just suggesting some of the things that an applicant might present. I think the key words would be prepared by a professional in development, real estate, and/or financial analysis. So it's got to be somebody with some credentials. It's certainly not the only criteria, or, the only factor that you're considering. It's just one of the others. So just offering that up for discussion.
I don't know that the years that I've been here that we've gotten any substantial backups. Just go, I can't sell the property, It's like,
Right, well, I think that's what this gets to, is giving the applicant that extra, like, it's got to be more than just you said you can't sell it. You need to show that you've tried to sell it. Demonstrate that you've had the property marketed actively for the last 2 or 3 years, whatever it is. Maybe it's a market study that says there's no market for single-family residential on this property on Door Highway, for example.
Mr. Bandersky?
Yeah, I think when you have in there by a professional, that kind of makes it a lot easier to look at the results and agree or disagree, whatever, but at least it's not the prejudice of the owner. Well,
Yeah, because somebody told me they want to buy it so they can put up a gas station. And it's not saying that they have to submit a pro forma. It's just saying that that's an example of one of the things that they could submit that might help address that criteria.
Tell me if I'm wrong, but any of these rezoning decisions would have to go before the township board, is that correct?
Right.
As a
Yes.
second step, yes.
And at that point, David Laddie will be there.
Correct.
Yes?
And to CYA, if you will, the township.
Well, that's what I was getting at, and I don't want to get too deep in it, but I'm thinking in my mind, what is a professional? Is that the real estate agent? Is that the developer? Is there some type of committee that reviews it before it gets to us and says, okay, this property, there's no deemed use for this property as zoned? Who determines that? Who is the professional?
Well, I think it's going to be someone who has that's what they do for a living, that is their profession. If they're a licensed real estate broker or salesperson, or a professional developer, a licensed builder, someone who does market assessments, market studies.
No, that I like, market studies, because I think if I had a real estate agent trying to sell my property for 3 years, and all of a sudden my real estate agent realizes that, hey, they want to buy my property and build a hotel on it. Well, now all of a sudden I'm going to get a commission if it sells, so of course I'm going to be a professional and try to convince the board that it's.
Well, and I think that's part of what your role is as planning commissioners, is to be able to weigh that along with all of the other standards that you have to look at. This isn't the only consideration. You are also looking at how consistent is it or is it not with the master plan.
That's true. Get that point. Definitely.
Mr. Bandersky?
I think, Jill, if you had the word licensed professional,
Well, they might not all be licensed, though.
Jeremy?
well, that's what we were just talking about.
Well, I know, but like a builder's licensed and a real estate professional might be licensed, but a developer wouldn't be licensed, and a person who does market studies might not be licensed either. But they also might be professionals.
I think what I'd like to see added would be a third party. So that it's somebody that's not, like you say, the real estate agent that's trying to market the property, but a third independent of that, or, transaction.
Yeah, I did, Jeremy.
My question, I guess to Jill is, under that section, it says the decision on the proposed amendment shall include a statement of the findings. And C would be this evidence of the return on investment. if they don't provide anything, then the rezoning could be shut down, correct?
If they just came in and said, well, we just don't want to do that, we want to do this other thing. Yeah, I think so. If you're not meeting any of the other considerations, it's not consistent with the master plan. There's things that are consistent with the zoning on either side of it, but they want something totally different. I don't really think it matters if
Right.
what they're going to provide.
I guess my thought process is, since I've been here, we haven't had anybody ever want to give us any of that statement. So I guess, I think it originally started from Mr. Bandersky at one of our rezoning cases. You had mentioned that, because my report says it's incumbent on the applicant to provide that information, and nobody ever has. So I guess we were even considering do we even need that section in there? Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Bandersky. Do you remember that to be?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess my question is, I know we want to put and add more language to it, but is it something that we really want to keep in there in its totality?
Right. If I could add to that. Yeah, sure. I mean, when I first say this, it's going to sound bad, but why is it our responsibility to make sure that somebody makes a profit on what they're doing?
Correct.
I mean, I do want everybody to profit, but I don't know that it's our responsibility to sit there and say, for them to say, well, I can't make a profit doing it this way, you got to change it to this so I can make a profit. I don't think that's incumbent on it. It's not our responsibility.
Except that you do,
Well, can I
private
just mention
property
one thing?
owners do have rights as well.
Well, unless, for example, we've changed everything around them and boxed them into where they can't do, well, then I could say, hey, you guys have changed everything. But that, I don't see that happening. We don't do spot zoning. We don't change things to the point where, now that property is dead in the water with its zoning. But I could see in that, if we've caused the damage,
Right.
that it's unsellable, then I could see them coming in and saying, hey, this is, you boxed me into this corner because of your activities boxed me in this corner. But that's not what I've seen. I mean, I know this round, I've only been on the board for maybe a year or so, but before then I was on there for 15 years. I have never seen somebody come up and say, I bought this property and I just can't sell it for the last 5 years and I can't make a profit on this anymore. It was self-inflicted. Or down McCandlish, where they were saying that they couldn't sell it for a profit. Well, yeah, they could have sold it if their price was in the right realm. If something's really valued at 200 and you say, I can't sell this because my price is $600,000 on it because I have to get a profit, that doesn't make sense. So it just sounds like this is muddying the waters more and more on the idea of, is it really our responsibility, unless it's activities that we have done that pushed their property into unsellable situations.
Which is why I think that criteria has to stay. It's just a matter of how we phrase it, and maybe it's strengthening the other criteria that are, we think that you really need to get through all of these before you hit this last one. Maybe it's
Maybe move that one to.
maybe we
the
move it
end.
to the end,
Right.
or do something to,
If you don't meet all of these, this is
yeah,
almost your
because
last
we really can't, we
ditch
really
effort.
do need to be aware and mindful of private properties owners' rights, and not to be burdening them with regulation, and this is funny, but burdening with people with additional regulations that do limit their ability to make a return on their investment. And that, we're not saying the most return that you could ever imagine, or optimizing your return, is just a reasonable assumption that you would be able to.
I guess I see that and I don't, because when they bought the property, if no regulations or zonings have changed since they bought the property, you should have been smarter to buy the property. I don't know, I don't see what
No, I don't
regulations
disagree
that
with you.
we've said that it changed.
Conditions change though, and someone might say, well, I was, neighborhood commercial, I think that, the market's changing, more people are moving out here, more people need to have higher intensity uses in this area, I really feel like I should be general commercial because the market has changed. We could kind of make up stuff.
Okay, so that makes more sense to me than, I'm not gonna make a profit on the neighborhood commercial, I'll make a profit off of the general commercial. So then that says the need has changed.
Right.
Fine, we'll change it on zoning. I get
I know what you're
troubled, I get troubled when it comes up to, I need to guarantee them a profit or
No,
change
yeah.
things to make them a profit, or it's not my, I mean, if that was it, I'd be the real estate agent and buy everything and,
Right, I think it's the reasonable return part that's not,
right, I don't,
we'll maybe
We'll touch on
revisit
that
that one,
next
yeah.
meeting. Okay.
Yeah,
buyer beware.
Yep.
But I'm all for if we've caused them the problem to, you just made my property unsellable this way.
Right.
I'm all for helping, and saying, hey, sorry for that issue and we should accommodate and,
They can prove it, we can
right,
accommodate.
right.
Well, property's a long-term investment for many people. And let's say you bought property, I'm gonna go outside the township, next to Bishop Airport. And over time, the airport expanded. And so now your property that previously was quiet, now it's noisy or in the path of a runway. So things can happen over time that is not the fault of anyone, but it's economy, it's growth, it's based on a lot of things. And this just asks for people to show evidence.
yeah. There was an example in another community where there was an old historic home on a fairly major road, and it was surrounded, there were condos on one side of it, and it was zoned multiple family. And then on the other side was office, and across the street was office. And again, it was a fairly busy road. And the applicant wanted to rezone that property to office because he didn't feel like he could subdivide it. He could not renovate it and subdivide it to make it multiple family. And he couldn't renovate it and sell it as a single-family home because it was on a major street, and there was office all around it. And so the community allowed him to rezone it to office so that he could restore the building, which is pretty cool, and then use it as professional office space. So it was an interesting situation, but it really was to, like, we've got this structure here, and the amount of money that we want to invest to fix it up, what we can currently use, we're not going to get a return on our investment because no one's going to buy a single-family home in this location.
Basically, you're just asking for a little more evidence.
But not, I guess my concern is it says it shall be included. So you have to basically, A through N, you have to give us for each application, you have to give us evidence for each one. I guess for that one, the return on investment, I would like to see that one be reworded somehow, because they provide on a consistent basis all the rest of them.
Right,
But
right.
that one,
Right.
I have yet to see, like Mr. Hoffman said, you've never seen anybody petition for that, or do we move it to the end and somehow word that so it's not a requirement for everyone, but if that's
Right.
the only way that you could get it rezoned, you could use that item. Okay.
All right, then the last one was just a consistency issue between 7.2.4.c and 7.2.4.a, just changing them so that they're both 50%. I don't know why necessarily that had been that way. It probably just something that had always been there, and it makes it easier to remember and probably enforce if they're the same standard.
Yes.
Any comments on this one?
I would agree with what you said.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right, so we've got one,
Can I make a suggestion?
Three, yeah.
We don't have one public hearing.
oh,
for
no,
one
I wasn't
thing.
gonna,
Okay.
no, I
Okay.
wasn't gonna
That was-
suggest that.
We've
No.
got 5 on the table that we're gonna
Yeah.
attempt to the next.
I think we should do them, we can do them all at once.
Okay, and then can we put both of these memos together on one for the next one? And then I know you and I had discussed a couple other things that we were gonna bring before them, and then maybe do a public hearing for 5, 6, 7 of them. so
Yeah,
that
like
way-
October.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Hey, did you get the input that you were looking for?
Yes, thank you.
So there's a few other things that, like I just mentioned to Jill, that we're going to be bringing to you probably at the next meeting, right? One of which we just got some language for, it was just the children foster care, correct?
Yeah.
Yep. So the in-home daycares are going from allowable from 6 to 7?
Yeah, family daycare homes have expanded by the state of Michigan from 6 or fewer children to 7. And then group daycare homes went from 7 to 13, 14?
12.
Sorry, 12.
12 to 14. yeah.
12 to 14.
Right. And then, I'm trying to remember, there was a couple other little things that you and I had discussed that we're gonna
Yes.
bring before, but I can't off the top of my head
Maybe,
remember. But
can I?
at the next one, you'll have updated language on what we discussed tonight, and then probably a couple new ones as well.
Those sound like they're more just cleaning up to match with the state.
Yeah.
That one is for sure, and then the other ones, I think we're pretty much through all of the heavy hitter
I think so,
ones.
yeah.
A lot of the stuff is cleanup stuff and stuff that I find randomly throughout the book on a day-to-day basis that we've hit all the big hitters, I believe, so.
Yes, I think what we might do next time is take a look at some of the things that that you've identified in the master plan, and start picking through and seeing if there's other more meatier. I think there were some things I think that we had called out, like reviewing our list of uses, so maybe looking at the use matrix to start with, and looking at uses that seem like either, why do we even have these listed? Because nobody would ever do these anymore, like outdated use types, or things that are missing, opportunities to consolidate some of them so that our lists look a little bit cleaner, making sure that we have the right things in the right districts. I think another couple of recommendations in the master plan included consolidating or collapsing some of the residential districts. Do we need to have as many as we have? Can some of them be consolidated? So I think those will be some more interesting discussions that we'll have coming up.
And these will be doing later?
So the list that you have in front of you can see that, I believe yes, everything that's in yellow are things that we have just discussed today and/or last month, and everything that's not in yellow, we have already discussed and/or have done a public hearing for. So we've already addressed those.
Okay.
So basically, the only thing in yellow, and you'll update the list when we do for next month too? Okay. So we'll get a new list next month, so you can see what we're gonna be adding to it.
But should this list be updated? Because we
Yes.
had continued discussion,
Yes,
Yes, we will.
7-1,
right, yep. So the whole list will be updated for next month, yes.
and I would encourage putting dates on the bottom of each page.
Okay.
And page numbers too, probably.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman or Jeremy, Bill, is it too late to discuss further changes to the parking space standards? I'd like to see all the spaces increase regardless of the arrangement of the type of parking to 10 feet wide.
Did that one go to township board already?
It,
It did?
it's one of those ones that we
Oh.
have in limbo.
Oh,
Well, I'll have to double check.
we might be able to. We can look into it.
The only problem,
I mean, it would vary based on yeah.
well, right, because if you look at page 5-37 in the zoning ordinance, it gives you the parking lot layouts. So we only changed the 75 to 90 degrees from 9 by 18 to 10 by 20. If you go to the 30 to 53 degrees, they're 8 foot 6 inches by 20. So
Yeah, so is the,
can we do 10?
Well, no, we'll see. I'll get
Okay.
with our civil engineers and
Okay.
ask them what the right number would be for
Okay.
that.
So it may not be 10.
might not be
but
exactly 10 by
we
20.
could
We
bump
could-
it up, maybe it'll be 9.4 or 9.6 or whatever it is, but, so you'll take a look at it.
Yeah, and
see
we'll
what-
ask David Laddie if that's a change that we can make between here and on its way to the township board.
Right.
I brought it up last month, and I think there was a kind of a consensus that
Yep.
many
All
of
of
us
them?
drive SUVs or pickup trucks, and it's hard not to hit somebody's car with your door.
Yes.
So that was you?
What?
So that was you?
It was. It was. I was trying to be careful.
I think what happens with some of the angle parking though, that if there's enough of an angle, your door is actually, almost behind the vehicle so that you don't need quite as much space. It's one of those strange
Yeah,
things.
you're
that
parked-
The 90-degree is much tougher to get into.
You're arranged in a pattern like this, where your door is back here, yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Bandersky.
unless there's further discussion, I would recommend we adjourn the meeting at 8:04.
It is 8:04. Coincidence.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Bandersky, support by Mr. Anderson. All those in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.